los misterios de la conciencia. Soy Sintergi y hoy nos embarcamos en un extraordinario viaje a través del nuevo e innovador libro de los investigadores de CISC-UPIDE. Durante las próximas semanas desentrañaremos los secretos de la mente, explorando conceptos e investigaciones de vanguardia sobre la conciencia y los fenómenos psi. Prepárese para desafiar sus percepciones y ampliar su comprensión de la realidad misma. Nuestra exploración comienza ahora.
Have you ever had like a gut feeling, and it turns out to be like eerily accurate, or felt some strange connection with someone like miles away?
We often just brush these off as coincidence, right? But what if they're hinting at something more, something beyond what we currently understand about, like, reality itself?
Today, we're doing a deep dive into parapsychology. We're going to explore all those intriguing phenomena that seem to kind of defy conventional science.
We're talking telepathy, clairvoyance, psychokinesis, even those, like, unsettling accounts of phone calls from the dead.
And trust me, I'm approaching this with a healthy dose of skepticism, but I'm also incredibly curious. So to guide us through this exploration, I've got someone with me who's, incredibly knowledgeable in this whole field.
Let's dive right in. What exactly is parapsychology?
So parapsychology, it's often kind of like relegated to the spooky stories, right?
Yeah.
And pseudoscience.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's a field of like scientific inquiry, just like any other. It's the study of those experiences that suggest our mind might be capable of way more than we realize.
Okay.
The Parapsychological Association, they define it as the study of interactions that seem to occur outside of known physical or biological mechanisms. So it's like pushing the boundaries of what we think we know about the mind and reality.
So we're talking about those experiences that make us question, like the very nature of reality itself. The source material we're diving into today, it breaks these experiences down into three main categories. Is that right?
Exactly. First, we have extrasensory perception, or ESP. This is like your telepathy, the ability to perceive another person's thoughts. Clairvoyance, perceiving those distant objects or events without any sensory input.
Right.
And precognition, basically like knowing the future.
Right.
Have you ever had like a dream that later came true or felt inexplicably drawn to a certain outcome? Those could be like little glimpses of ESP in action.
Those examples definitely hit close to home. Now, psychokinesis. This is the one that always seemed the most far-fetched to me. Is it really possible to move objects with your mind? Like, come on.
Well, psychokinesis, or PK, it's a bit more nuanced than that. It's about the mind's potential to directly influence the physical world.
Okay.
This can manifest in subtle ways, like influencing the outcome of, say, random events. For example, there have been some intriguing studies where participants have demonstrated a statistically significant ability to influence the output of random number generators, essentially affecting chance itself.
Now that you mention it, I've heard about those studies using gambling machines to test for psychokinetic abilities. What were the findings of those? That feels like something that could have some pretty concrete results.
Some of these studies did show results that deviated, like significantly from what you would expect from pure chance.
Wow.
One well-known experiment involved participants attempting to influence the fall of dice.
Okay.
The results suggested that the intention of the participants had a small but measurable effect on the outcome.
That's pretty mind-blowing. It really challenges our conventional understanding of like cause and effect.
It does. And it leads us to the third category, which delves into perhaps the most profound question of all survival of consciousness after bodily death.
This is where things get really interesting and incredibly complex. From near-death experiences to accounts of reincarnation, this idea that our consciousness might continue after physical death, it's captivated cultures for centuries.
It has. And while these accounts are often deeply personal and subjective, there are researchers who are approaching this question with a scientific lens, looking for patterns, verifiable details, potential evidence that consciousness, it might not be confined to just the physical body.
This is definitely a topic that sparks endless curiosity and debate. Where should we even begin to unravel this particular mystery? Near-death experiences, or NDEs, feel like the natural place to start.
They seem to offer a glimpse into what happens when consciousness is pushed to its very limits.
I think most people have heard those compelling accounts. The sensation of floating outside one's body, the tunnel of light, seeing deceased loved ones.
It's true. Those are some of the most commonly reported elements of NDEs. But what makes them truly fascinating from a research perspective are the aspects that challenge conventional explanations.
You're talking about the cases where people report seeing or hearing things during their NDE that they couldn't have possibly known through normal sensory means?
Precisely.
Okay.
There are numerous accounts from individuals who, while in a near-death state, were able to accurately describe events happening in other locations, sometimes even miles away.
That's what I find so compelling about these cases. It's one thing to have a subjective experience, but to then be able to verify those details later,
Right.
that makes you stop and wonder, do we have any specific examples from the research?
There's a well-documented case involving a woman who had a cardiac arrest and during her NDE reported finding herself on a different floor of the hospital.
What?
Observing a specific shoe with a worn spot on the left side.
No way.
Later, when she was revived, she described the shoe and its location to the medical staff. They were astonished to discover that she was absolutely correct.
Wow.
The details she provided were so specific and unusual. It seemed highly unlikely that she could have known them through any conventional means.
That sends shivers down my spine. It really makes you question our understanding of how perception works and what's truly possible.
It does. And those cases are far from isolated incidents. Researchers have documented numerous instances of individuals during NDEs providing verifiable information about events or conversations they couldn't have witnessed while physically present.
So, if we entertain the possibility that these experiences are more than just hallucinations,
Yeah.
what does that suggest about the nature of consciousness itself?
Right.
Could it be that our consciousness isn't as tethered to our physical bodies as we tend to believe?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it leads us to another fascinating area of parapsychological research, reincarnation. The belief in past lives, it's ancient and widespread, but what makes the scientific approach to reincarnation so intriguing is the meticulous documentation and investigation of cases, particularly those involving young children.
Right. And the source we're diving into, it highlights the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson, who dedicated his career to studying children who claim to have vivid memories of past lives. What I find so fascinating about these cases is the level of detail these children provide.
Yeah.
Often recalling names, places, even specific events that can be corroborated.
That's what sets Stevenson's work apart. He wasn't just collecting anecdotal accounts, he was conducting rigorous investigations. He identified several key characteristics that often emerged in these cases. One of the most compelling, in my opinion, is the presence of birthmarks or birth defects that seem to correspond to injuries or wounds sustained in the supposed past life.
Wait, you mean a child being born with a birthmark that eerily matches the bullet wound of a person who died many years earlier?
Exactly. Stevenson documented numerous cases where these correlations were quite striking.
Wow.
For example, he investigated a case in Turkey where a young boy claimed to remember the life of a man who had been shot in the head. This boy was born with a malformed ear that closely resembled the gunshot wound described in the alleged past life.
Oh my gosh.
Stevenson was even able to track down the autopsy report of the deceased individual, which corroborated the boy's account and the location of the wound.
That's incredible. It's hard to wrap my head around, but if we're talking about verifiable details, those physical marks feel like pretty compelling evidence. What are some other characteristics that stood out in Stevenson's research? It's almost as if these kids, they carry echoes of another life, right? Within their very being. It's fascinating and more than a little bit eerie.
Speaking of eerie, there's one more phenomenon that we need to unpack. Those spine-tingling tales of phone calls from the dead. I have to admit, this one always sends shivers down my spine.
It's certainly one of the most direct and personal forms of alleged communication with the deceased, and it's understandable why these accounts they really capture our imaginations,
Right.
And perhaps tap into our deepest fears and hopes.
Absolutely. So what can you tell us about the different types of calls that have been reported? What are people actually experiencing?
So there are actually several types of these calls. Some are incredibly brief,
Okay.
almost like a fleeting whisper from beyond, The caller might simply say a few words, sometimes a familiar phrase or a nickname, and then the call ends, just abruptly. These are often called simple calls.
Right.
And while brief, they can be incredibly impactful for the person on the receiving end.
Oh, I can only imagine. It would be both comforting and unsettling to receive a call like that. What about longer conversations? Have those been reported as well?
Yeah, and they're even more perplexing. There are reports of prolonged calls where individuals engage in seemingly normal conversations with someone they believe to be living, only to later discover that the person they were speaking to had actually passed away.
That's both fascinating and incredibly creepy.
Right.
Like, it makes you wonder about the nature of these connections and whether our loved ones might still be trying to reach us from, beyond the veil.
Yeah.
Are there any, documented cases that stand out as particularly compelling?
There's a case from the 1980s involving a woman named Doris who received a call from her recently deceased mother-in-law.
Okay.
Doris described hearing her mother-in-law's voice clearly, even recognizing her distinct laughter.
Wow.
What's intriguing about this case is that Doris's mother-in-law had a very specific way of answering the phone, always saying, "That's a ringing endorsement."
Oh, wow.
During this alleged call from beyond the grave, she used that exact phrase.
Wow, that sends chills down my spine. It's those little details, those personal quirks that make these accounts so compelling and so difficult to dismiss as mere coincidence or imagination.
Exactly. And while there are always alternative explanations to consider, right?
Right.
Hoaxes, misinterpretations, even technological glitches.
Yeah.
Some researchers believe that these calls, they might be a form of psychokinesis or telepathy, with the mind of either the deceased or the living person somehow influencing the electromagnetic spectrum to make contact.
It's as if we're venturing into a realm where the very laws of physics just bend and blur. It's incredible. As we delve deeper into these extraordinary phenomena, from near-death experiences and reincarnation to those uncanny phone calls from the deceased, one can't help but question, what if our understanding of consciousness is far more expansive and mysterious than we ever imagined? It seems that with every answer we uncover, we're met with even more profound questions. What are your thoughts on this?
What I find most fascinating is the growing recognition, even within the scientific community, that these experiences, however strange or inexplicable, they deserve serious attention and rigorous investigation.
Right.
For far too long, these topics have been relegated to the fringes of scientific inquiry, dismissed as mere superstition or fantasy. But the evidence, both anecdotal and empirical, it continues to mount, challenging us to expand our understanding of what's truly possible.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, it requires an open mind and a willingness to explore the unknown.
Yeah.
Even when it challenges our deeply held beliefs about the nature of reality itself. And who knows, perhaps the greatest discoveries await us not by looking outward, but by turning our gaze inward, exploring the vast and uncharted territories of our own consciousness. A huge thank you to you for guiding us through this mind-bending exploration. And to all of you listening, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep an open mind. Until next time, happy deep diving.